Hi everyone, it's Ian from DIY Home and Gardening, and this video is essentially following me growing those plants behind me, these ones, and these bulbs, which is the Egyptian walking onions. So if I turn the camera around and then we can have a look how it all started. Right, so the plants in question are these. I bought the 3 plants from Pennard Plants, and they are called, as you can see there, Egyptian walking onions. And they are a type of onion, and the reason they're called Egyptian walking onions or walking onions is because of the appearance that they walk or move along your beds, and how they do that. Right, so you got your main mother bulbs, if you like, that are in the ground, and from that, in the springtime, they will produce this nice leafy onion growth as normal. But slightly different is that they will produce a flower spike, or what looks like a flower spike. So that will come up, and on top of that spike, which can be sort of 2 to 3 foot in height, will then form some small bulbils. And then as the weight of the bulbs on the top gets too much, it bends the stem down, which in turn falls to the ground, and in time, the following year, those bulbs will then shoot, sprout up, and so the appearance of the plants and the bulbs walking across your beds. So for the time being, all that's going to happen is I'm going to get these out the pots, pretty frozen, going to get them out the pots, pop them into the beds over there. So you can probably see this is fairly newly planted out bed. So currently under there are the what is under there? Oh, it's all year round cauliflower. There's the cabbage, Durham early, and these are the kale, Cavallero Nero. So the beds were sort of dug through probably a good couple of months ago, with some manure added to it, and then they were dug again about a month ago when that lot were planted. And then I've just given the top a light tickle over, just to break the well, essentially break the ice covering that is there, open the structure up again to expose this nice surprisingly warm, pliable soil. It is predominantly clay, but having had the manure mixed in a couple of times this year, it's actually quite free draining, given the fact also that it's all been done on these scaffold boards, so it's elevated above the normal sort of ground layer. So planting wise, just going to do them equal distancing across the bed like so, which will give them sort of a good foot all the way around, and essentially just knock them out of pots and plant them. And that is, well, that's going to be it really, and then a little dressing. But let me get them in the ground and we'll have a look. Just thought I'd show you that. So that's the root zone so far, and you can see that actually below the surface the soil's quite nice, so they're going marginally deeper than they are in their pots. Just backfill with some of this nice crumbly stuff. Make sure that we get it firmed nicely all the way around. Put a bit of weight onto it. Make sure keep a little bit of the foliage out. And tidy up. So that is the 3 of them in. Got some of the manure from over in the pile, so it's nicely rotted down, as you can see. We'll just do that around the tops, which would just help to insulate around, and then as it gets into next spring, break down to release plenty of nutrients for the onions. And that label there, well, that's frozen in the pot, so that's not coming out. Got another label. We'll just stick it at the front of the bed, so then that way, if the foliage dies back totally over this winter time, there's no danger of forgetting what's in here. So just do a nice section of manure. Onions are quite greedy plants in terms of wanting loads of nitrogen, so we'll get that last bit on, like so. And that will do for that, and then get the cover over, screw it all down, and essentially that is how they're going to stay for the rest of this winter period. Okay, so I've actually got the cover off on this bed for the first time since planting. So actually it's been 4 months since these 3 plants were put in, and so these are the Egyptian walking onions put in at the first or second week of December, and as I say, the whole bed's been covered over until today, where I've gone through to do a proper weed and a little bit of infill planting. We have had a really wet and cold winter in the UK, but actually you can see that these have done really well, as have I should say, sort of the normal onions and garlic behind. Not really had too many losses, but when I put these in, I were obviously planted in their 1 litre pots. I mulched around with some well rotted manure, and I definitely feel as though that's helped give them that bit of protection. The smaller one is still the smaller one, and the bigger one still is significantly bigger. But you can see that actually, yeah, they've all started putting on this infill growth. That one there is probably the most obvious, in as much as it's must have formed some additional bulblets to the base, and so we got plenty of growth on that. Likewise, that's showing a bit of a division, and obviously that one's kind of still doing what it's doing and alive. There's a little bit of scorching to the tips, but that is really, I think, where it's been touching the cover, and the cover has had the snow and the ice on it. But all in all, so far, let's say for 4 months of neglect, they're doing really well. So I guess I come back when they start doing something different. When that will be, I'm not quite sure, but I imagine it'll be once we get more towards the end of May, but we'll start getting to that point fairly soon where they'll want another feed. So that'll be, I guess, the revisit. Time for a little update on these bad boys, the Egyptian walking onions. 2nd of June, and you can see that they've put on these long stems. So that would typically be what you'd expect of a flowering stem from a allium or something in the allium family, but they don't go into flower. They actually start splitting out. There we are, so you can see there. So we're getting some of the bulbils forming, which is the small onion bulbs, and what that's doing is the weight then is causing the stems to bend down. There's a good example. So the weight's pulling the stem down, and as these new onion bulbils or sets developing, they're then starting to form new. So essentially what will happen is that these stems will get pulled down to the ground somewhere, and then those shoots will then grow, and that will form the new plants essentially, which gives the well, the benefit of extra plants, but the appearance of the fact that they're walking across the ground. But yeah, that's the latest update. So I've come up to the allotment mainly to do a harvest, onion harvest, but whilst I'm up here, I thought I'd show you progress on these Egyptian walking onions. It's 25th of June, and you can see that the first section has now bent down to touch the ground with the small bulbils, and they are small, certainly compared to some of these other ones, and I'm really hoping that now they're getting a bit of size to them. You can see there, this one is starting to get a bend on to want to get to the ground. You know, look at the size of some of those. So yeah, should really get going soon, and you can see how it's transitioned from bulb and flower. Essentially you're getting the seed formation, bulb formation, so just needs those to carry on doing their thing, touch their ground, and then once they're at ground level and a bit brownish, then they're ripe enough for harvesting, which in this case is just going to be harvesting for replanting. So that's the update. Right, so 1st of July, and we are up here looking at the Egyptian walking onions, and basically you can see that since the last little update that well, update section of this video, that the stems on these now have gone brown. They haven't really bent in as much as well, kind of as it sort of suggests, but you can hear that cracking. So what's actually happened is the stems have dried out and snapped at the neck, which then means that these drop to the ground, a bit like that one that has done there. So I guess not necessarily, yeah, arms collapsing down and causing it to then walk further away from the plant, but more the fact that it snaps far enough away from the plant to then re-sprout up and start walking. So really, I guess where we're at now, 1st of July, this is sort of the end of these walking onions, if you like, in terms of what they're going to be doing, and it's just going to be a case of here on where you get a bit more ripening into the actual juvenile bulbs, and then it'll be them that then take over. But from my point of view, what I'll be doing is taking these off, save the bulb, take them off like so. We can then save the bulb or just plant these straight back out, as they have got the root forming already, and cut off this stem so that hopefully the plants can gain some goodness without worrying about the production side of all this flower. So yeah, that's, well, essentially that's what I'm going to do now. So the stem's cut down, and basically we end up with two different types here. So we've got these, which are nice big bulbs, some that are formed at the actual head of the plant and some that are formed halfway down the stem, so that's actually quite a few, and these ones hopefully should produce some decent plants next year, and will, from what I gather, will then kind of be into flowering phase the following year, so probably 24-25 on that. And then these are what looks like the flower heads, which they are, but then when you look at close, you've got the bulb formation amongst that. So for ease, I think what I'm going to do is allow these to dry out so the flowers can drop off, and then I'll be able to separate the bulbs out. Obviously there's a couple of decent ones on there still, but these ones here, these were from the very tops of the stems, and it seems to be that the very tops were the ones that had the flower. But these little bulbils I can then plant into some cell trays to grow on. And then that leaves me with these 3 plants which were singular bulbs, and I guess it's a case of digging these up to see what they've produced. But yeah, really that is, well, the first year of me growing the Egyptian walking onions. So as I say, that's video finished. Still got the mother plants behind me, which I'm going to allow the foliage to dry out on before I lift those, and then they can be replanted at the new allotment. Obviously got all of these new bulbs to plant, and yeah, that is my first venture into growing the Egyptian walking onions. Not a lot else I can add to that really. I guess if you got any questions, then obviously send them to me. I'll do my very best to answer them for you, but obviously knowledge is going to be purely based on this year's growth. Can't add a lot more to that. If you do like what I'm doing, then obviously please subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to hit that reminder button so you don't miss out on the future videos I'm doing. And I always say it, but it is so true: enjoy what you're doing, have fun, and indeed experiment a little, try something different, and you know, if the odd crop presents itself, then give it a go. But yeah, for now I've got all these, and I'll be planting these in the autumn, so watch this space. See you soon.